I remember she ended up entering the boys' cabin, and out of nowhere, she ended up looking at all of us saying, "What, you never seen a girl in here before? Well, how about this?" And she ends up showing her cherries to the entire cabin full of guys just to get my attention. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing but crazy story. Now, today's story all takes place back in my grade 7 year. Now, in grade 7, I was in middle school, and honestly, I was just a basic kid. I never paid attention to anyone. I only did my own thing. And if I'm gonna be honest, the only thing I actually really did care about was playing video games, because that's the only thing I enjoyed. For all those people back then that played Call of Duty Black Ops 2, you guys know what I'm talking about. But going on with the story, I remember it was the summer of my grade 7 year, and basically I was going into grade 8 and I was super excited, but for some reason my parents in my grade 7 year decided to make me learn an instrument. I don't know what it is with parents trying to see talent come out of their children, but I'll tell you one thing, I wasn't really that talented. So me and my parents, knowing this, they ended up deciding to make me take an instrument and basically learn an instrument that I could be talented at. And out of all the instruments that are out there, they ended up making me choose the worst one, and that was the clarinet. Now, honestly, I hate the clarinet. Like, for all those SpongeBob fans out there, okay, my nose is already big enough. I did not need to become Squidward and play the clarinet. But I remember one day coming home from clarinet practice, my parents ended up always asking me, "Oh, Bubba, did you learn anything? Bubba, did you learn how to play a song?" And I kept telling them no, because I'm gonna be honest, I was terrible at playing the clarinet. No matter how many lessons I got, for some reason, I could just not learn it. So I remember one day when I came home from hanging out with my friends, my parents were sitting in the living room, and I went and said hi to them, and they said to me, "Bubba, can you sit down with us for a second?" I sat down with them, and that's when my mom ended up telling me, "Bubba, we're going to be sending you to band camp." Band camp? What is this, a Nickelodeon TV show? Why am I going to band camp? "Bubba, don't worry, it'll be fun, and you'll learn how to play an instrument with all the other kids." At that moment, I got so annoyed, because not only did I not know how to play the clarinet or play any instrument at that matter, they ended up basically making me go to a camp where it's full of nerds that knew how to play instruments. At that moment, I was super annoyed, but I remember as the next couple of weeks went on, my parents ended up sending me to band camp. And no joke, when the bus came to pick me up, I was regretting walking on there so much. I remember when I got on the bus, I ended up seeing a lot of kids that actually went to my high school, and all of them were, well, nobodies. But then there was one person in the back of the bus that I recognized that actually went to my elementary school. So I went and sat beside him, and we caught up on a bunch of things. Like, for example, he told me about how he started to play guitar, how he still plays video games, and how a lot of the kids in band camp are actually pretty cool. At first, I did not believe him whatsoever, but when we finally arrived at camp, in the middle of nowhere, by the way, we ended up getting our things, and we ended up heading to our cabins that we would stay in. Now, in band camp, there's two separate cabins that you would stay at. There was the girls' cabin, and there was the guys' cabin. So I guess you guys wouldn't understand where I went, and that was the guys' cabin. And no, by the way, there is no she, they, them cabin, okay? It was just guys and girls, okay? It's like buying an Amazon t-shirt. Like, there's only two sections at the time. But going on, I remember I ended up getting inside the guys' cabin, and all the guys were unpacking their instruments, unpacking all their clothes, and me, I was doing the same thing. And then right as we heard the bell for all of us to meet up at the front of the campsite. So when we all ran out there, I remember there was a lot of us. Like, there was over 40 people attending this band camp. And as we were all like basically lining up in a giant group, I started to notice there was one girl from the girls' cabin that kept staring at me. For some reason, there was this girl that was like a total nerd, and she just kept looking at me weird, and honestly, it made me super uncomfortable, to the point where I looked at my friend and said, "Yo, who's the girl that keeps staring me down as if she wants to kill me?" "Oh, bro, that's actually a girl that got kicked out of the middle school. I don't know what she did, but apparently she's like really good at the drums, but she's kind of crazy." "Huh, okay. Why is she staring at me though?" "Oh no, she's probably interested in you or something. My opinion, stay away from her." I remember I got super weirded out, and I decided to do exactly what my friend told me and to stay away. A couple days went on, and I remember there would be really weird random moments throughout the day where I would be sitting with my friends or hanging out with the guys, and the girl would always still just stare at me randomly. It made me super uncomfortable, and there was this one specific moment where I remember it was lunchtime, and we were all eating our food at our table groups, and no joke, she stood up as she was staring at me and decided to walk up to me. But as she was walking up to me, I remember our team captain captain, or basically the adult that was watching over everyone at band camp, ended up walking up to us and asked me, so Bubba, did you learn a lot about the clarinet? And I just looked at her super awkwardly because I'm not gonna lie, even me being at band camp, I still did not know anything about the clarinet. But after that whole situation, it made her, the creepy girl that would always stare at me, walk away. Now, there were many moments where things happened like that. And there was this one specific moment that almost freaked me out, because I remember there was a day in band camp where we all decided to go to the lake. It was basically a rest day from playing the instruments all week. We ended up all going to the lake and we all started playing games like volleyball and tennis and flew a kite. Like, we did a bunch of different activities. And as I was playing volleyball with me and my friends, I remember this girl kept staring me down, and she actually ended up walking up to me. She walked up to me and said, hey, so like, you're that guy that plays the clarinet, right? Yeah, hi, my name's Bubba. Hi. Well, I just want to say, like, I think you're like really cool. Thanks. Yeah. As we were having that super weird conversation, no joke, my buddy ends up running up to me and he says, yo, Bubba, you gonna pass the ball or what, bro? Why are you talking to this girl? Come on, let's get out of here. Girls have cooties. And me and my buddy, we ended up going back and playing volleyball. Now, that was the only interaction I thought I was gonna have with her. But let's just say later that night, things got really creepy. Because I remember at night, we ended up all heading to our cabins and we basically got ready for bed. I ended up getting all my things put together, and then that's when it happened. I ended up hearing rocks hitting my window that was right beside my bed, and I didn't know what was going on. And then after a while, lights ended up going out and all the guys were laying down getting ready to sleep. Me, I was laying down as well, but once again, I heard more rocks hitting my window. I ended up opening the window and I ended up looking around to see what was going on, until out of the bushes came this girl that was talking to me earlier. She looks at me and says, hey, like, we didn't finish our conversation. What are you doing here? What? It's late. Yeah, I know. Here, let me in. And I remember she ends up crawling through the window and she looks at me and saying, Bubba, like, I was just wondering, can I get your number? What? I don't have my phone on me. I didn't bring it with me to camp. And that's when it happened. I remember one of the boys ended up waking up that was near the light switch. He ended up turning on the lights and saying, yo, what? Why is there a girl in here? Guys, there's a girl inside the cabin. I remember everyone started to wake up and just start staring at this girl as if they'd never seen a woman before in their life, which, I mean, to be fair, they might have never at that point, but still, they were like in total shock. And I look at this girl and I'm like, yo, I think you should get out of here. And then this girl ends up doing the most craziest thing ever, when she looks over at everyone and says, what, you guys have never seen a girl before? I bet you guys have never seen these before. And she ends up whipping out her cherries in the middle of the cabin while all the guys were staring. No joke, all the guys started to freak out as if like it was their first pair of cherries they've ever seen. Well, actually, it definitely was, but still, like, it was so awkward and super weird. And I remember I looked at the girl and said, yo, like, what are you doing? I ended up giving her my t-shirt and I put it on her and I ended up walking her outside my cabin. When we went out the front door, she ended up looking at me saying, so I was just wondering, can I still get your number? And that's when I told her she was absolutely crazy and to please not ever talk to me again. You guys probably thought me and her did the devil's tango, but I am not gonna do it with a girl that literally showed her cherries to the entire cabin full of guys. Like, that's like doing a girl that did the whole entire football team. And if you guys would never do it with a girl like that, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. I remember my crush ends up walking up to the door to open the cabin, but for some reason, the cabin door wouldn't open. We ended up looking at each other and she looks at me and says, Bubba, I think we're stuck in here. Wait, what? Why? And that's when I walked up to the door as well and I saw that the door would not budge. I started to worry because there was no way I was stuck in a cabin with my crush. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. Now, this story all takes place back in my grade 11 year. Now, in grade 11, I was a pretty simple guy, but at the same time, I was a major player, meaning that I would do simple things like play video games, go for long drives since I just got my license that year, and as well as, I guess, do homework. Not really, to be honest. I never really cared about school growing up, which probably led me to becoming a creator online that tells weird stories like this, but going on with the story, I remember basically, I was walking through the hallway my grade 11 year and I ended up seeing one of my friends. Now, this friend that I had back in my grade 11 year, he was really rich, like rich to the point where it's actually kind of disgusting. I remember when I first got my license, I ended up getting my first car, which was a Toyota Celica GT, and I love that car to death. Like, I have no hate towards the car. I love it. As a first car, it did what it was supposed to do. But as for my friend, he ended up getting like $100,000 car. I think it was like a Hellcat is what he called it, and it was the most insane vehicle ever. Literally every girl in school would know when he pulled up, up because his car was so loud that even the teachers complained to the parents of my friend. But at the same time, he didn't care, nor did his parents. Going on with the story, I remember I ended up walking up to him and he looked at me and said, "Yo, Bubba, you know spring break's coming up, right?" Yeah. What about it? Well, like, do you have any plans? No, not that I know of. Why? Okay, bro, listen, right? Me and my parents, we bought a cabin recently, and it's actually not that far from here. It's deep in the woods up the hills, but it's really nice, and no joke, I was thinking me, you, and we bring a couple of baddies with us, and we go up to the cabin. You down? I remember I looked at him, and I'm like, bro, what girls would want to go with us up to a cabin? What do you mean, what girls, bro? It's that easy. Just say what girls you want. At that moment, I ended up looking around, and I ended up seeing my high school crush that I liked walking down the hallway. And me and her, we ended up having like a little eye contact, and that's when my friend looked at me and noticed that we were having eye contact, and he said, "Bro, I'll invite her if you want." What? No, don't invite her. It's not a good idea. What? Why not, bro? It's clear you like her, so like, if you're not gonna talk to her, like, you might as well just invite her out, and maybe you can, like, you know, meet her at the cabin. You know what I'm saying? Cabin lovin'. Do you know what you're even saying right now? Is what I told him. But he ended up shrugging his shoulders and ended up running up to my high school crush. At that moment, he ended up inviting her to like the cabin that's happening on spring break, and I ended up walking up behind him, and she looked at me and said, "Oh, Bubba, are you going to this cabin thing he's talking about?" And I looked at my friend because I didn't even give him an answer yet, but I ended up noticing that she wanted to go as well, and I just ended up saying, yeah, I'm going. You're not gonna come, or are you going as well?" "Oh, well, I mean, if you're going, sure, like, I'll be there." And that moment, my friend just looks at me and smiles as if, like, you know, he just accomplished a mission or something. But honestly, in my mind, I was just really awkwarded out, nor did I know what to say. But once we got her approval of her going to the cabin, she ended up walking away, and my friend looks at me, and I look at him as well, and I say to him, "Yo, so if she's going, who are you gonna bring?" I don't know yet. I'm just gonna send a snap out to like 12 different girls and see which ones want to go." At that moment, he ended up sending like all like 12 different girls on his Snapchat a message. I guess it was like his roster back in high school because he was also a major player like me. And he ends up basically like messaging these girls, and he just said, "I guess we'll just wait for the day when, you know, it happens." At that moment, I was like, okay, whatever. And let's just say when spring break finally came around, things got really wild. Because I remember leading up to spring break, he would always DM me a different girl that was coming down. And I was like really confused because it got to the point where like 5 different girls were like ready to go with him. And when it finally came to the night before, I ended up packing my stuff and crashing at his place with my car. When I went over to his place, I remember we ended up loading the vehicles up for the next day. And I looked at him and said, "Yo, so do you know what girls you're bringing?" "Yeah, to be honest, I'm just gonna bring 2 because like, I don't know which one I like more. And since there's 3 rooms in the cabin, like one girl can sleep by herself if she wants, or like I'll just take turns with them. I don't really care." Okay, cool, I guess, is what I told him. And to be fair, it was his cabin, nor was I gonna say anything. But then afterwards, he told me, "Oh, also, Bubba, I'm gonna pick up the 2 girls I'm gonna bring, but can you go pick up the chick that you like?" "What? You want me to pick her up from her house?" "Yeah, she sent me her address. Here, I'll send it to you." He ended up sending me her address, and I was really nervous because I didn't know if she was, to be honest, going to the cabin for me or for my really rich friend. But the next day when we got up, we ended up getting ready, and we ended up basically driving to go pick up the girls. The 2 girls that he invited actually ended up coming over to his place, since I guess they were both his sneaky links, and I guess they met for the first time together at his house, which is really weird. But me, I ended up driving to go pick up this girl, and when I saw her already standing outside with a suitcase, and I drove up to her and said, "Hey, like, you ready for the cabin?" "Oh, hey, Bubba, I didn't know you were picking me up." Yeah, is that okay?" "What? Yeah, of course it's okay. Here, let me put my things in the trunk." She ends up packing her things inside, and well, one thing led to another. She got in my car, and we started heading over to the cabin. We started driving down, and every once in a while, my friend would call me to make sure I'm going the right way, because this cabin was like really high up in the woods. Like, since I'm Canadian, I guess like there's like a ton of mountains, and this like cabin was like up there. So I remember I ended up taking my car and driving it up the hills, and it was really cool because this girl was like, you know, enjoying the like weather and stuff, and she loves the forest apparently, which to be fair, the only time I use a forest is when I wanted to go do the Devil's Tango. I'm not really much of a hiker, to be honest, but I remember me and her, we finally ended up making it to the cabin, and when we got there, I ended up seeing the 2 girls unloading their stuff from my friend's car that he brought, and me and this girl, we ended up getting out of our car, and we ended up unloading things as well. We got inside the cabin, we started picking our rooms, and this cabin was actually really nice. Like, in the daytime, it was beautiful. There was like nice furniture, you know, the wood walls, like it was fantastic. But I think the most awkward part about this though was that when it finally came to us like going inside the cabin with our suitcases, I remember my friend walks up in front of all of us and says, "Okay, so there's 3 bedrooms, I forgot to mention, so like I was wondering if you guys want to group up in some way." And it was so funny because the 2 girls he brought looked at each other and looked at him and said, "Oh, like, aren't I sharing a room with you?" "I mean, I don't mind, whichever way works." And they ended up all putting their luggage in the same room. As for me and this girl, I looked at her and I'm like, "Well, I mean, there's 2 rooms left. Do you want your own room? Like, it's totally up to you." And she looks around and says, Yeah, I mean, I'll have my own room if you want me to." "Oh, no, I mean, like, it's totally up to you. Like, we can share a room if you're down. Like, I would prefer that if you want me to be honest. And that's when she smiles. She ends up smiling and saying, you know what? Sure. That sounds like a plan. I remember me and her, we ended up putting our suitcases in the same room, and we had one spare room with absolutely nothing in it, except the bed and the closet. But still, it was totally empty and no one was staying in there. I guess we would call that like the anger room. If someone gets angry at each other, then, you know, they could just go into the spare room. But anyways, going on with the story. After all the rooms and everything was sorted out, we ended up all heading into the living room. We started playing games together. We started like, you know, plugging in the Wii because for some reason someone brought a Wii system thinking it was a good idea, which to be fair actually was, because we ended up playing Mario Party for like 4 hours. And as it started to get late at night, I remember my friend ends up going to his car and pulling out a ton of booze. Now, quick warning before anything, okay? I have to put this warning out there because I don't want to get this video demonetized, but basically the warning is do not underage drink. It is not cool. It does not make you a cooler person. It is bad for your system and no one should do it. High school is when you're supposed to experiment. I get that, but underage drinking is really gross and really disgusting. But since he brought booze, we all ended up having a good time and we ended up drinking together. And well, that led to some craziness because I remember after we all drank, we started to get really hungry. And for some reason, my friend thought it was a good idea to bring booze, but not bring food. So I remember one girl even tried to like Uber Eats food to the place, but we were far away cabin. Like there was no way there were any restaurants nearby to bring us food. And then that's when one of the girls said, oh, well, to be honest, I didn't drink at all. And I mean, I could just drive one of your guys' cars and we can go like quickly to the store and pick up something. I remember my friend, he ends up like pulling out his keys out of his pocket and he ends up throwing it at the girl from how like much he drank. And he's like, I'll come with you since it's my car, but like, let's go like together. What? Dude, we're not all gonna fit in your car, is what I told him. And that's when he's like, oh, I see what you mean. Okay, you two lovebirds stay here, and me and these two baddies right here, we're gonna go. I remember one of the girls got super upset when he said that, to the point where they actually all ended up leaving together, but the last girl, for some reason, that left the door, ended up slamming it super hard to close it. At that moment, I remember my crush looks at me, and she's like, okay, well, he's a bit of a jerk. What, him? How is he a jerk? Well, like, I don't know, that's a bit overkill, don't you think? I mean, yeah, but like, you gotta understand, he's been like, you know, drinking and like, you know, it's just one of those nights. Oh, okay, well, you seem calm. Yeah, like, I'm good. Do you go out to cabins much? To be honest, it's my first time, I guess you could say, other than like camp. Oh, well, do you want to like maybe like walk around, like go check out like what's around here? You mean you want to go walk into the woods? Yeah, like, why not? Okay. I remember me and this girl, we ended up basically walking up to the front door and we tried opening it. But then I remember my crush, she ends up pulling the handle down, but realizing that the handle would not move. And that's when my crush looks at me and says, Baba, the store isn't moving. What? What do you mean? And that's when I walked up to the handle as well, and I realized that the door would not open. And this was like the main entrance. There was no other doors around the cabin other than this main entrance door. And all the windows were like alarm systemed, and we didn't want to like mess with anything. So I remember I ended up looking at this girl and I'm like, I think we're stuck in here. Wait, what? How are we stuck? That makes no sense. I remember she starts kind of panicking and I start to as well, because, well, to be fair, like, we're stuck in a cabin. And one thing led to another. I remember she looks at me and she starts to worry because we ended up getting an Amber Alert on our phones right at that moment. It started to freak us out, and obviously, like, you know, it made me a little shook that, you know, it started to rain, we got an Amber Alert, and then like on top of that, we were stuck in a cabin. We thought things could not get worse, but sadly it did, because I remember me and this girl, we ended up just going up to my room, or I guess our room I should say, and we ended up sitting on the bed and we're starting to think like, what should we do? Should we call my friend? But there's no service. And then that's when the worst thing happened, where I remember all of a sudden we ended up hearing like a large like thunderstruck, and then the lights went out. It just went dark for some reason. Like there was no lights at all that would turn on. And that's when I looked at her and said, I think the power went out. Wait, what? Are you serious? Oh my goodness, things just can't get worse. I hate thunderstorms. Oh, well, don't worry, I'm sure it'll pass. Baba, can you come cuddle me? Yeah, sure. I remember me and her, we ended up cuddling in the bed that we were supposed to sleep in. And well, from cuddling, it led to one thing and another. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, guys. We ended up doing the devil's tango in a cabin that we were stuck in with the power out. I mean, to be fair, like, it seemed like the perfect moment to me. I don't really know, to be honest. Comment down below what you guys think. But honestly, things did end up still getting worse. And you guys are probably wondering how. Well, let's just say like an hour went by. And I remember we ended up hearing someone downstairs open the front door. But honestly, me and her were so distracted with each other that we didn't realize one of the girls ended up walking into our room when we're in the middle of doing the devil's tango. And she walks in there complaining, saying, OMG, like, I'm so done with him. Like, he's such a jerk. Oh, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see what was going on here. And she ends up leaving right away. At that moment, me and this girl, that was my crush, looked at each other and we kind of just giggled and laughed. Honestly, we thought things were just as bad as they seem, and what's the point of complaining? Honestly, would you guys get stuck in a cabin with your crush? Because if you guys would, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.